Hello and welcome. Another Confessions podcast is now here and ready to go. An audio array of awful silliness from the pretty naughty Radio 2 listeners. This week's Concise Collection, here we go. We have a ghostly gadget guffaw, a lonely learner lock-in, an unexpected underwear upset, and a peculiar peanut parable. See what you think. So, here we have another confession. Who's this? This one is from The Woodman.
Oh,
Okay.
that sounds sinister.
Yeah, say that again.
Okay.
Can you say that
It's
again?
from The Woodman.
Oh, lovely.
Anyway, the Dean of Deadliness is back. I don't know where he's been for a long time. Earning voiceover money.
Yep.
But,
Well, not sounding like that.
Dear Simon and the Kerrick Collective, I feel I must get my confession off my chest. Beg absolution from you and your fellow judges for the deed I'm about to relate, which I am both ashamed and penitent.
Oh, excellent.
I drink in my lovely local pub with a wonderful landlord and have been a regular there for years. The pub I shall refer to as The Fox has had a reputation for many years of being haunted, and the landlord and staff have experienced many strange happenings, loud noises, pans flying around the kitchen, and undisturbed glasses spontaneously exploding. Wow. Imagine that.
Yep.
Hey. I knew Dudley would do
A little something
what
freaky.
was purporting to be a ghostly sound effect. It actually just sounded like Richard Breyer's whistling in The Good Life.
I have come a long way for this. I've come from the next office.
Based on the landlord's interest and fervour in the supernatural, having experienced some of these ghostly events, I decided
Sorry.
to have a little fun. I purchased a small spy-like device, no bigger than a 10-pence piece, which I could clip onto my keyring. This clever gadget, once activated, could turn any European standard television off or on within seconds. The fun to be had. We've actually had quite a few confessions involving these hilarious gadgets. So I would sit and enjoy my pint, turning the TV off and on, just as long as there was no rugby or sporting event being shown. Obviously, I didn't restrict this to just one TV in the pub. I made sure I sat in various spots and played with all the screens, even the huge one in the top bar. It was very easy to be covert, as my spy device did not have to be pointed, and I could conceal it in the palm of my hand. So there's a theme running through the show.
Yeah.
It wasn't long before the TV activity had captured the landlord's interest, who immediately put it down to the ghost haunting the pub. I mean, obviously. One of the regulars suggested that there might just be an electrical fault with the large television, to which the landlord replied, No, it happened in the bottom bar too with the smaller television. Didn't it, Woodman? I nodded, desperately trying not to smile. We then accused him of playing a joke on us and asked him to empty his pockets and leave his mobile phone on the bar. He duly complied, turning out the contents of his pockets and pulling his pocket linings inside out. We challenged him to turn the TV on and off purely by shouting to see if the ghost was listening. So he hollered, "TV turn on and TV turn off." He did this while raising and flapping his arms in the air to show he was not up to anything. It goes without saying, Simon, that the TV obeyed the landlord's every command, freaking him out somewhat, but exciting him at the same time, thinking that the ghost was actually again up to his old tricks. We then challenged him to give commands to the television to switch it on or off, turn up the volume, change channels, that kind of thing, at random intervals, to prove that it was indeed his commands that were creating this phenomenon. Of course, the TV again obeyed his every command. At this point, I feigned fear and said I had to leave, pretending I was scared of the apparent poltergeist activity. Doesn't sound that scary at the moment. I had to put this to bed in my mind and thought no more of it until my next visit to the pub, when the landlord told us he had contacted a local medium about the mysterious TV haunting and other spooky goings-on in the pub over the years. Apparently, the TV saga had been the final straw. The medium agreed to hold a séance in the pub with her psychic friends in attendance to put the landlord's mind at rest. Everyone held hands.
Should we do that now? Let's hold hands. Should we hold? Oh, okay. No. Matt doesn't want to.
There's a surprise.
Yeah, there we are.
Everyone held... Rebecca's actually tuned out completely. Everyone...
I'm actually taking notes.
Okay, good.
Oh, all right.
Everyone held hands. You're spoiling the atmosphere now.
Oh, sorry.
Everyone held hands and bowed their heads. The medium swayed as she murmured in hushed tones. All of a sudden, she started laughing in a strange voice, saying she was talking to a young, mischievous boy called Malcolm from the 19th century, who had lived and died in the village.
Right.
He played jokes on the village priest and the landlord and the farmer's wife, that kind of thing.
That's handy.
The medium
Stop it!
The sceptic in the corner.
Yeah. Simon's trying to create an atmosphere.
The medium asked the landlord if he had any questions for the little ghostly scallywag. The landlord said, "Yes, ask him if it's him that keeps turning my tellies off."
Sympathetic.
The medium apparently rolled her eyes. Malcolm!
Is this her now? Sorry.
The trouble is, it just sounds like Paul O'Grady. Well, I don't sound like Paul O'Grady, but if you're referring to Malcolm on air, that's the way it is.
Yes.
Malcolm, is it you turning off the television? Malcolm the Phantom apparently replied, "Yes, it truly was. Ha! You can't catch me. I'm just passing on the message."
Oh, the message? Yeah.
The medium rolled her eyes again. Anyway, so it was agreed it was indeed the ghost. Everyone definitely agreed. They had a vote, and they decided it was the ghost of the young boy called Malcolm that was doing this. Who'd have thought it, eh? In retrospect, I'm not particularly proud of what I did. I had thought it would just be a bit of fun, and really thought that the landlord would have realised that I was always present when the TV phenomenon occurred. I had not envisaged a full-blown séance on the back of my prank, followed by the landlord shutting the pub, until Malcolm had got bored and went on to spook someone else. If it helps in the forgiveness stakes, I also turned off 60 televisions in a department store that were pumping out lift-type music, thus making the store more pleasing and reducing their carbon footprint. So I need your forgiveness and hope that you can find it in your hearts to shed my guilt and remorse. Thank you, lovely people. Great radio show. I've been a fan of yours, blah, 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 blah. Is this helping? Says the Woodman. Well, these devices are out there and lots of people are very
annoying.
Now
lots of people know about it, so they're going to go and buy them and annoy everyone else.
Guess what? It wasn't a ghost.
Thanks for that. I can't believe the landlord shut the pub. I mean, that's quite serious. How long did the landlord shut the pub for? I mean, he must
16
have lost
years.
a lot of money.
16 years and he went bankrupt.
A lot of money as a result of the Woodman's pranks, which isn't that funny, really. But I love the way the landlord wanted to have a séance to put his mind at rest. Like, that was going to put his mind at rest, to find out there was actually a boy. Yeah. I think the fact that he had to shut the pub was pretty bad, and he should have.
He didn't have to. That's
well,
the
I know,
whole thing.
but the Woodman should have just told him at that point that it was him turning the TV on and off, so that the pub didn't have to be closed, because that was really bad. So I can't forgive you. Sorry.
Well, the clue is in the fact it wasn't spooked. Anyway, what do you say there, Deadly?
Yeah, I think I forgive, actually. I know what Rebecca's saying, but...
do you?
The involvement of... Well, sort of, yeah. She's made notes. She made a lot of notes there. The involvement of this Malcolm character, though, did make it a bit serious, really, at one point. I was a little bit worried there. But...
We're just making stuff up.
You're making... Well, you made the names up. But
I didn't change the name of the ghost. I don't think that was necessary.
We didn't, did we?
But it was...
Right, OK, BBC lawyers didn't get involved in that, did they not?
We're OK to name that...
We can name
that ghost. We
Fabulous.
present Name That Ghost. But it was quite a fun thing to do, so forgiven, really. Quite a hoot, really.
OK,
I'd try that myself.
So what do you think, Brother Man?
I might try that in the office, man.
Yes, yeah, do. Zany pranksters, eh? Don't you love them? Oh, look, I can turn the telly off. Oh, I'm crazy. Everyone hates you. All of us. We all hate you. I'm going to say this. Why is it that ghosts think that they're going to convince us they exist by turning TVs off or having things move around the room slightly? Why don't they just come out and say, "We are ghosts, we exist," and do that?
Because
and
they
maybe
don't have bodily forms. That's why.
Oh, is that right?
They need you to press the remote.
Maybe they just should write stuff. Yeah.
They haven't got bodies.
Maybe if we ask them questions, we ask them slightly better questions than, "Is it you who's turning off the telly?" Yes, it is.
Yes.
Oh, well, Malcolm must exist then.
Knock once for yes.
I'm definitely not going to forgive. Because the pub landlord will doubtless have made a lot of money saying that his pub is now haunted and he gets
It's kind of his fault.
Gullible Americans
It was
will
all
turn
for
up.
fun,
So I'm going to say yes, definitely forgiven. Have I changed my mind?
Yes,
I
you
have.
have.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Really, does it? You know, not a court of law.
50-50.
So here we go with tonight's confession, and it's from Rumpole. Thank you, Rumpole. Bless me, Father Simon, and the collective, for I have sinned and seek forgiveness. My conscience needs cleansing, for my indiscretion has been a heavy burden to bear over these last few years. As an upstanding member of the legal community, may I ask you simply to refer to me as Rumpole. This time of year, as many employers know, it's the period when school and college students embark on short work placements. They spend several days learning to make tea, how to operate a photocopier, what a paper shredder looks like, and what it does. All useful tools for dealing with their forthcoming entry into the jobs market. At the time of my indiscretion, I was a partner in a small firm of solicitors, and for some reason my colleagues always thought I was best equipped to deal with student placements. I was keen to play my part in encouraging the youth to learn about the life of the law, and would invariably cave in to requests from a variety of students, both in age and ability, to come and shadow. Some would see the photocopier more than others. The enthusiastic ones will be dragged along to court and taught about the process. The uber enthusiastic, the ones who wouldn't stop asking questions or making notes and would just try just a little bit too hard, would be given big dusty files, a quiet space in the office, and a question to answer that would take several hours to find. Sometimes the answer to the task post didn't even exist. Leaving the uber enthusiast to pore over a file for hours and hours looking for a non-existent answer, leaving me in peace and quiet and enabling me to carry on my busy job without interruption. This is the placement not worth having, you'd have to say. For the purposes of this confession, we shall call this particular uber enthusiast work placement student Anthony. Frankly, that's what his name might have been, I can't remember, but Anthony seems as good an alias as any other. Anthony was the uber enthusiast of all uber enthusiasts, delighted to be working with me, extremely polite, keen to pursue a career in law, plenty of questions. Can he carry my coat? Can he carry my briefcase? Can he carry my files? Can he get me a sandwich? Can he run any errands? Can he do any photocopying? Perfectly pleasant young man, but rather high maintenance, Simon. Sounds very nice guy. Most people can...
Well, yeah, very enthusiastic.
Slightly irritating.
Yeah, Rumpole, what's wrong with you? Anyway, oh, no, OK, Rebecca's...
I'm kind of with him there.
Yeah, OK.
Oh, dear.
And so it was after a few days of excessive sycophancy that Anthony was dispatched with the dusty file and given that same awkward question that had been asked to students many times over. We sent him to a desk in the quiet corner of an office with a pen and pad of paper and tasked him with some contrived area of research. Peace was restored, at least for the afternoon. I concentrated on my own work, says Rumpole, rather than dealing with uber-enthusiastic Anthony. Buried myself in my job, catching up with phone calls, dictating files, dealing with clients. The afternoon sped by into the early evening when, pleased with my afternoon's work, I called it a day. My fellow partners and the assistants had long since left. I turned out the lights, locked the door, activated the burglar alarm before getting into my car and driving home. After long... splendid, relaxing dinner. I put the kids to bed and watched a documentary on telly. I just got into bed shortly before midnight when it occurred to me, in true Home Alone fashion, as I sat upright in bed and shouted, Anthony! Uttering a few Anglo-Saxon words, I realised I had locked uber-enthusiastic Anthony in the building, now plunged into darkness, and he was unable to move because he had activated the burglar alarm. So he has to stay absolutely stock still. What had I done? Fearing that Anthony would have been sat motionless for the best part of 5 hours, I felt it only right to get out of bed, get dressed, and return to the office to let him out. Turns out that he had sat frozen for the best part of 2 hours, and then had to scratch or something, and had activated the burglar alarm. So he then left by the fire escape anyway. Well, there's no point in hanging around, is there? He even slammed the door shut behind, leaving the building with the alarm noisily going off, but at least it was secure. Anthony fortunately saw the funny side and enjoyed a quality work placement for the rest of the time he was with us. There were still errands to do, messages to take, lunch to fetch, but it was me that was doing it for him. A small price to pay for his frozen time. My guess is there are going to be quite a lot of people saying, yeah, in fact, I've done it now I come to think about it. I did set the alarm just a couple of weeks ago, not realising that my daughter was still asleep in the house. And then it's quite easy to forget that she's there.
Oh, really?
And so I seek forgiveness from Anthony, says Rumpole. Though I'm sure the entire experience was character-forming, and with his uber-enthusiasm, I'm sure he's gone on to brilliant things. I seek forgiveness from my wife for waking us suddenly with the exclamation, Anthony! which took a little bit of explaining. To the night workers in the nearby office who had to endure the sound of a rogue burglar alarm going off, although I suspect no one will have actually gone to investigate because nobody ever does. And, of course, from the entire team of work placement students that are soon to be seen in offices around the country. Of course we love you hanging around. Of course we do, despite the evidence to the contrary. OK, Rumpole, well, it's a very good story. I like that. Poor old Anthony, he couldn't move for a very long time. What do you think there, Sister
Well,
Rebecca?
I do find sycophants irritating and annoying, and I think, sometimes they do deserve to have their sycophancy brought down a peg or two. So in a way, it's good that he was left behind in the dark office, as a sort of punishment. But and luckily he had the common sense to just move after 2 hours and get out of there, go down the fire escape. Because I'm sure a lot of these interns wouldn't even have that. But I think because that that confession had the line, my wife wasn't very pleased, and I woke up going, Anthony, I'm going to forgive for that alone. So you're forgiven.
All right, okay. Brother Matthew, what do you think?
That is a great line. This idea that he saw the funny side. Well, of course he saw the funny. He's desperate for a job. He's desperate to impress. Do you know what? If you don't want these people coming around doing placements, don't have them. You're the ones bringing them round. Do you know what's at the root of this?
What?
At the root of this is people who have this fear that actually they are bluffing in their job and they're going to be found out by someone coming around and saying, what is it you actually do? And they go, well, I do this most of the time.
Matt, we all bluff.
And exactly. So that's what's at the root of it, and that's why I'm not going to forgive.
Hey, well, tonight's story comes from Gloria. Thank you, Gloria. Father Simon and the Caring Collective. Mine is a holiday confession. We have been asking for holiday confessions. 'Tis the season. Yours, please, confessions@bbc.co.uk. This goes back 13 years or so. My parents were in their 70s and they regularly enjoyed package tour holidays. Now, I'd started to notice as they got older, they were becoming more and more daunted by the journey, normally via Gatwick to their chosen Mediterranean destination. They were particularly concerned about new restrictions placed on their hand luggage. I received many concerned phone calls about how careful they were having to be with not only the amount of liquids they could carry with them, because they were quite partial to taking a pre-mixed gin and tonic in their carry-on. I think that's
fantastic.
Different times.
Yeah. Yes, different times.
For the airport weight, but also other items of hand luggage too. My mother was always very thorough and liked to be prepared for every eventuality. As such, she always took with her a spare shirt, a spare top, and a spare pair of knickers, just in case.
What, just in the hand luggage?
Just in the hand luggage. Yes.
Wow, what's she expecting?
Well, I don't know. Anyway,
Wow.
she's just prepared, and she's thorough, okay? Now, it was during one of these frantic hand luggage trauma phone calls, she foolishly mentioned her concern at whether knickers would be permitted under the new restrictions.
Has this been checked? Has this been checked? Good.
My husband and I... I'm going to have to fade you out. You're going to have to call. My husband and I saw the opportunity for an amusing moment whilst lightening my parents' pre-holiday concerns and send them off with a smile on their faces. How hilarious it would be to write to my parents informing them of the restrictions on hand luggage underwear. My husband, a graphic designer, put together a very authentic-looking airline letterhead, and we spent a merry hour creating a formal mail-out regarding tightening of carry-on bag checks. The main thrust of the letter was that the new restrictions now covered items of underwear in hand luggage. Underwear would only be permitted if it was clean, white,
Good.
and less than 10 centimetres by 16 centimetres in size. We created a selection of photos of unacceptable underwear, including Victorian bloomers, Union Jack boxers, cami knickers, and anything with a picture of George Bush on it. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Did you go pants with? I remember now.
Yep.
Well, we chuckled as we popped the letter in the postbox and thought how much my parents would enjoy our little leg pull as much as we had enjoyed making
Gloria.
it. Well, oh dearie me, that's not quite how it played out. The next day I received a very fraught call from my father telling me about the letter and asking our advice. What were they to do? They'd measured all their pants with a tape
Like you
measure,
would, yes.
and none of them met the new airline criteria. Now, says Gloria, my mother's undergarments were not huge, but definitely bigger than the new restrictions allowed. My mother had sorted through her entire underwear drawer and measured each one, but nothing was 10 centimetres by 16.
Nothing at all.
Okay. At this point,
Yes.
I should tell you that my father then explained that he'd gone on to ring the customer service line to try and establish what they should do. Unfortunately, no one at the airline seemed to know about the restrictions or about the letter, which had been sent to regular flyers. At this point, I had two choices. Let them fly, with my mother having to pack a recently purchased skimpy flimsy thong, or fess up. So... what do you think? Well, let's see. What do you think? What do you think Gloria's going to do?
She let her fly. Obviously let her fly.
Do you think?
Yeah.
What do
The
you think?
nice thing would have been to have fessed up at that point.
Yeah, definitely think she bought the skimpy pants.
Do you think? Well, at this point, says Gloria, I couldn't suppress my laughter anymore, and I suggested to my father that he might like to look at the postmark on the envelope and reconsider the validity of the said letter.
Blame somebody. I mean, somebody else could have. Yeah.
And he did. He then promptly hung up on me.
Oh.
It took him all afternoon to calm down, but I'm not sure he ever saw the funny side. However, said Gloria, I would like to seek forgiveness for not only upsetting my parents and in fact adding to their pre-flight stress, but for putting an airline employee in the position of dealing with a knicker restriction inquiry from my father whilst keeping a straight face. So you see, although you might have expected a hard-hearted Gloria to say, yes, it's absolutely for real, that would be a cruel thing to make your elderly mother get on a plane in a thong.
You'd do that, wouldn't you?
Or with a spare thong just in case. Anyway, we'll see what Matt makes of it in just a moment. Anyway, it's Gloria's holiday confession. Thank you very much indeed for that. Let's see what Sister Rebecca
I think
thinks of it.
Gloria, she already knows that her parents were very stressed about travelling. They're in their 70s and they're very stressed about these restrictions. So to make it worse and to go to all that effort as well to put the letter together and put it in the post, I just think it wasn't really worth it. It didn't have the desired outcome anyway because it just upset her parents even more. And while it was a funny joke, I think it backfired.
Do you think?
I'm not going to forgive.
Not looking good for Gloria so far, but it's always deadly to rely on. What do you have there,
I mean, it was good for Gloria. She had a good laugh at the time until she had to fess up, of course. And that was in the days when postmarks actually meant anything. You can't read postmarks now, so you couldn't really do this.
That's not deadly.
Goodness knows, I've tried, Rebecca. I've tried many, many times.
Relevant as always. Though.
And as for the airline employee, well, they're paid to deal with that, aren't they? That's what you're going to say, isn't it? That's exactly what they're paid to do. And they probably had a good laugh as well. So, I'm going to forgive, I think. I'm going to forgive.
So, of course, we'll be looking for underpant.
Of course.
Confession, hand luggage, gin and tonic, holidays, all of those very welcome. Confessions at bbc.co.uk. However, Brother Matthew is about to pronounce.
Yes, this is now my favourite confession. This is superb. Well done. You should have followed through with it, though. It is though a real study in how our attitudes to authority. So if you receive something that looks official, you'll go, yeah, you won't question it. You'll say yes. If it had said you're not allowed to wear orange on the flight, we'll go, all right, mustn't take anything orange. I'm going to say not forgiven because you didn't follow through with it. But that is an outstanding confession.
Yes.
So if Gloria had actually said,
yeah, get on the flight and don't take any underwear that's bigger than a thong.
Here's tonight's confession. Now, I think I've had similar stories to this sent in over the years, but this is great and I had to share it with you. This is from... Can we check this? Yes. Okay. Peter Peatnut Tanner. Okay. That's this one. Father Simon and the Brethren. Here is my confession, which I have burdened for 42 years. I want to take you back to the year. It's 1971. I'm 11 years old. I've just started my first term at secondary school in Scarborough, the Saint-Tropez of the North East, apparently. All my pals from junior school have followed me to the new school, and we started the term green and enthusiastic, hanging around the tuck shop on our bikes, saving our pennies for sherbet and licorice. My grandparents lived 10 minutes' ride from the school, and my working mum sent me there every Thursday for lunch from the very beginning of the new term. My granddad, in his 80s, was handsome in his youth and still a skinny little chipper kind of guy. He was always laughing and joking around. I really enjoyed his company. He first took me to the beach when I was around 5 to hit golf balls with a hickory-shafted club into oil drums that had washed up on the extensive Scarborough sands. Consequently, I've always had a lifetime enjoyment of the game, for which I will always be grateful. My grandma, also in her 80s, had stooped shoulders, no teeth, but boy could she cook. That's why I kept it for you, Night.
Thank you. I like her already.
I used to look forward to lunch every Thursday to see what culinary delight she had prepared. As a growing youth, I always cleared my plate. Pudding, as it was called in those days, not dessert, was always the same: homemade apple pie and rice pudding. Oh, delicious. Yeah. Would you put those together?
Yeah,
you would. Either or, isn't it?
No.
Choose.
Both.
Oh, okay.
You would in Scarborough.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, both. All right. Now, this little arrangement went on for many weeks, well into my second term. One Thursday lunchtime, as I leant back in my chair, holding my stomach full to bursting, my grandma slid across the table a little porcelain bowl full of peanuts. I was invited to help myself, but I could only manage a few, as I'd already gorged on pie and rice pudding. I thanked them both, kissing my grandma on the cheek, put on my navy blue blazer, mounted my bicycle and rode off back to school completely satisfied. Now, the following Thursday follows pretty much the same routine. The lovely dinner, the delicious pudding and the peanuts offered again. This time I take a generous handful, pocket the spares and happily munch away whilst watching the lunchtime news. Now, thanks are given again and off I cycle to school. The following Thursday, again, the same. And the fourth or fifth Thursday, I'm taking pocketfuls of nuts to school and sharing them amongst my pals during our 3 o'clock break time. We don't need to hang around the tuck shop anymore, as I keep our supply going for months. And I get the nickname Pete Nut, which is why I mentioned him at the beginning. Excuse me. One particular Thursday, and for no particular reason, I am sat at the dinner table, sufficiently full, as always, when the nuts come sliding over. Remorseful that I had been filling the bellies of my tuck shop gang while my grandparents didn't have money to throw away, I said to my grandma, "Why do you keep buying all these nuts if you don't like them and then giving them to me?" And she replied, and I will never forget the words, "I only like sucking the chocolate off them." Now, you might have anticipated that. Anyway.
No.
So, Father Simon, I have buried this secret for 42 years, and now I seek forgiveness, not from my grandma, who was raised in the waste not, want not era, but from my pals, namely Benjamin Ackerman, known as Jammy Acker, who joined the army at 19, Martin Clifford, known as Chalky, I still see him now, let's hope he's not listening, Paul Butcher Brewer, Paul Eccleston, never seen him since we left school, and other sundry pals. I feel so much better now I've got them off my chest. I feel forgiveness is a formality. From Pete Nut Tanner, who shared, well, he was doing a good thing though, wasn't he? He was sharing the largesse that his grandparents had given him. Here, the peanuts. How was he to know Grandma had sucked the chocolate off?
I love it. I love the description of the grandma with her stooped shoulders and no teeth. It was a great build-up, a fantastic punchline, and I mean, Peter didn't know.
Well, he
didn't know what he was doing. He just thought she was being
good.
generous, and he was, taking a few for his mates, which is great, which is laudable. So, and they didn't get any germ, they didn't get ill or anything. So no harm done. I'm going to forgive you, Peter.
As far as we know. What do you think, novice Nigel?
Well, I hope the fact that he might have stopped eating them, but he kept taking them and giving them to his mates, because it is a recycling theme, and I rather like that.
Yes.
Now, he didn't say he did that, so I'm presuming he stopped, and suddenly he wasn't the peanut baron of North East Yorkshire.
My guess is that he stopped after this particular Thursday.
But as you say, I mean, not only stooped shoulders, no teeth, but a great chef, and I just love that as well. So she got, I'm sorry, Acker, Chalky, Butcher and Eccleston, but you never knew. I bet you loved them, so that was it. You are definitely Pete Nut Tanner forgiven on this occasion.
And would you, just to be clear, you would pair up rice pudding with apple pie?
Yeah, I mean, not natural, but I'm sure it'll go. And as a hungry lad, and I'd definitely have eaten those combinations. I like them both very much, so yeah.
Matthew, what do you think?
The only thing I'm slightly confused, because as this story was going on, I was thinking, is she giving him the nuts loose and he's just putting him in his pocket when clearly she was? And how did he not see her sucking on these chocolates and then where is she when she's eating these chocolates and then taking them out of her mouth?
Did it early in the day.
Yeah, obviously
they were pre-sucked.
That's pre-sucked. Well, there's no harm done in this. So and it is a great story. So yes,
unless she had a disease.
Which it turns out she didn't. so let's not try and make this into something it's not.
Unless it was a gum disorder, because there'll be plenty of those.
Yes, it could be. But fortunately, it wasn't, as we've already established.
She had no
yes.
teeth. She could have had a gum disorder. Nicely pointed out.
I think, Peter, the only thing that would worry me on a culinary front is why is he having peanuts at the end of a meal where he had apple pie and rice pudding?
They don't go, do they?
No, never mind the reggae police, but the culinary police would have you for that, because that's weird. But obviously they weren't very salty because the salt had been sucked off.
All right, I'm just going to fade Nigel out at that point. Fancy getting a visit from the reggae police and the culinary police. They could, two different flying squads coming your way. Well, they were this week's confessions. Who did you forgive, and did it actually spark a thought? Is there a confession you'd like to share? I suspect there are 3 or 4. Confessions at bbc.co.uk, more in a week, and the Weekly Mayo available to download now and every Friday. Thanks.